For lesson 15, we're talking about Adobe Programs working together. So I have went ahead and did a design in Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to show you how I moved it into After Effects. And then I'm also going to show you how to use it along with Photoshop. I am going to have you create a design in Illustrator as well after watching this, and then move it into Photoshop as well to create a pair of Vans tennis shoes. So we're going to kind of walk through the process first using a design that I've already made, and then I just want you to try and do it on your own. So we're going to start off by looking at my design in Illustrator. So with Illustrator, whenever you're using it, you create these separate layers, and then layers have sub-layers. This comes into play when you're moving it into other programs, especially like After Effects, okay? So whenever you move it over, you can have it save as layers into After Effects, and then you can use those layers individually. And so when I did this, just to explain a little bit more, what I did was I created all of these layers. So I wanted to make sure that my chin was separate because I wanted my chin to move. So you can see my chin is a separate layer, and then on that layer is the sub-layers of the chin. Sub-layers will just link into that layer, so you can't like adjust them individually. So if I wanted to do something like have the eyes, these flowers in the eyes appear outside of the skull, like if I wanted them to animate in some way, I had to make sure that I made the eyes on its own individual layer. So you have to break it down pretty far when you're moving it into After Effects. So here is what I started with, and you can see I have all these separate layers. And then I went to After Effects and I created a new composition, and I moved over, I imported this project, this Illustrator project, and it broke it down. I told it to do it by layers, and it did break it down. And here is all the layers from that. Okay, so what I created was a little video, a little animation of the flower. I pulled one of the flowers over. It opens on that flower, and then that flower shrinks down, and the skull is going to come up. And then what I did was, remember I said I wanted the chin to animate itself. So once it gets to the chin, I actually, if you watch this, you'll see the chin moves. I was able to move that because it was a separate layer, and I could put it onto a different part of my timeline down here. This may seem kind of confusing if you've never used After Effects. After Effects is an amazing program to do animation and do some basic video editing in. So it's always a good thing to kind of learn if you're interested. Okay, so let me go ahead and play this video for you just so you can kind of see how it turned from this into this. Okay, so it was just a short little 10-second video. Now it's really nice too. I could have created the same kind of skull idea in Photoshop and moved it into After Effects as well. Adobe is really good about all their programs kind of working together. Now, what I want you guys to do is you're going to have the option to create one of two types of shoes, or you can create them both if you want. So I have a Vans Authentic here, as well as a Vans Slip-On. These are both going to be in the module, so you can download the one that you want to do. On the Vans Slip-On, you're going to have to design this back piece, a side piece, and the top piece. I've also put in here that you can change the color of the seaming right here if you want to. And I'm going to walk you through how to do all of this. Now on the Authentic, you have to do the side and you have to do the front. You can also change the color of this little piece right here, the back side, and the tongue. Also, I put in the shoelaces if you want to change the color of them, if you don't want them to be white, as well as the seaming if you don't want it to be white. So let's walk through this, okay? So in Photoshop, if you've never used it, there's something called Smart Objects. And you can see over here that they have these little images next to their little thumbnails on the layers. These mean that from seams to top, these are all smart objects. The tag, I have locked it so that you have a white tag that'll show over everything. I also have where the stitching will show over everything once you do it, just to make them look a little bit more realistic when you're done. Those are both locked into place. You can just leave them there and they'll automatically do their thing. Same thing with the overall shoe itself. It's sitting back here, so it's locked so nothing messes with it on both the slip-on and the authentic. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to your AI design, and I'm going to close these two flowers to start with because I just want my skull, and I'm going to select all of it and do, you can do Control A, or you can just draw a selection box over it and then Control C to copy. Then I'm going to go back over here and I want to put my skull, part of my skull right here on the side of the shoe. I want it kind of peeking out. So I'm going to find my side right here and I'm going to double click on the little thumbnail itself. Now, this is where you can change the background color of the shoe as well. So I'm going to end up changing it from this blue, but first I'm going to paste my skull in there because I want to get a color out of the skull for the color of the shoe. So I'm going to do Control V and this little pop-up is going to pop up and it says paste, and you can paste in layers, you can paste in smart objects, pixels, paths, or shape layers. Okay, whenever I'm working between Illustrator and Photoshop, I always do as a smart object. And the reason I do that is if I decided that right now my skull is this kind of like orangey color, if I didn't want it to be orange, if I wanted to have it in pink, then I could easily go back and change it as long as it's a smart object. It'll reopen it back into Illustrator for me. Now, you don't have this option like how I showed you the video in After Effects. It doesn't work the same in After Effects, but it's really good little trick to know that in Photoshop, okay? So I'm going to choose Smart Object, and I want to make sure Add to my current library is unselected because it's going to put it into my libraries over here, and I don't want that right now. So I'm going to unselect that and hit OK. And it's going to come in like this, and you can take it wherever you want it. You can size it, you can twist it. In Photoshop, you do not have to press Shift like you do in Illustrator to maintain the ratio. So I'm just going to kind of turn it, size it, and I want it to be peeking up over the side of the shoe like this. Okay, and when I get it where I want it, I'm going to hit this little check mark at the top. Now, for the shoe color, I want the shoe color to actually be the color of this center little raindrop shape. So I'm going to click on my color box right here, right over here on the left, and it turns into a eyedropper, and I can click on the color that I want and hit OK. Now I'm going to come down to this little blue box in my layer panel over here. So let me point at it right there and click on it and use my paint bucket, which is right here, and just fill that whole box. And because I have this little mask on here, it's going to, the whole box turned green, but you can only see the part that is actually the shoe. Now we also need to put this mask on your Vector Smart object. So I'm going to press Alt and hold it and drag that little mask up. And now you'll see that he's kind of peeking out. And I can come right up here to the side PSB and I can close it. It's going to ask me if I want to save the changes. Yes. And now you'll see that it fits into my shoe. Okay, and I'm going to talk about changing colors whenever we do the front of this part of the original drawing, just so that it's a little bit easier and makes a little more sense. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Illustrator, and now I'm going to open my flowers. And I have my flowers grouped together so I can just click on them like this. And so I'm going to take this one, I'm going to Control C, I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and I'm going to open the front of my shoe. So it's right here. It says top. You're going to double click on the thumbnail itself and Control V. Again, Smart Object, not selected. And I can move this around to where I want it. I can resize it if I want to. I'm just going to put it kind of like this. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the little flower. And I'm going to paste that one a few times. And I know that they're sticking off. I want it to look like it's like curling around it. So by doing this, you know, you're going to lose part of your flower. There we go. So now I have these flowers in here. And the same thing, I'm going to press and hold Alt, and I'll drag it up to each of these other layers, this mask, so it'll hide them whenever I open my shoe back up. So I have it like this. I want to change the color of my background again. My green is still over here because of when I changed my side of my shoe. So I can just select the blue box in my layer panel right there and use my paint bucket and just pour it in. So now the whole shoe will be green. Okay, so now I can close this one and you'll see that it's changed the front of my shoe. Now for the rest of these little areas, if I just go into backside and I double click on the thumbnail, I can just drop that green right in there, nice and simple, and do the tongue as well. Drop the green, close it. Okay, so now the shoe has this feel to it. I don't want all my flowers right here to be blue maybe, okay? I just want to make a change to them. Instead of making an entire change, I can simply go back in. So I don't like this blue with this green, or I don't like this red with this green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in. I'm going to edit this flower so that we don't have that red and that purple together. So I'm going to go on my side. I'm sorry, go on my top, double click the thumbnail. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. I think it's this one, this first one. Yep, right here. And I'm going to double click on it. It's going to open it back in Illustrator as a separate smart object. And now I can go in and use my direct selection tool, and I can choose the red petals, and I can come up here and I can choose a different, or I'll come right here and choose a different color. So maybe I want them to be more yellowy. And then I'd have to change the stroke as well. Come on. There we go. So I have it to kind of this like yellowy greeny color. And then I can select each of these. And just use my eyedropper from this original one. Actually, that green might be too close to the green that I'm currently using. So let's change it one more time. Maybe we'll go blue. Go. So now I can select these other ones and just do the eyedropper. Boop. Oops, grab the wrong selection tool. Okay, so now they're all changed. Now you'll just go up and close this. I'll ask if you want to save. Yes. You can go back to Photoshop and you'll see that it's changed the color of that flower. Okay, so it's really nice. Now I will tell you, if I remember correctly, if you do this one, one of these little flowers, it will end up changing all three of them. You have to change the name of them over here to get them to open as separate individual ones. But now I can go in and close this, hit yes, and then it's changed it on the shoe as well. And like I said, you can come up here to, I'm going to grab my eyedropper real quick. I'm going to double click on the screen. I want my shoelaces to be this purple color. Hit OK. I can come up to my shoelaces. Now that purple color is still in there, and I can drop it. And now it's changed the color of my shoelaces. Okay, so I want you to just kind of play with it, design some really cool shoes, have fun with this. You can use vectors off of a vector website, come up with your own illustrations, do whatever you want. You're going to go ahead and turn this into me. When you turn this into me, what you're going to do is you need to save it as a JPEG. And if you come up here to File and Save As, it will not allow you to save as a JPEG right here. You will have to flatten the images right over here, flatten all the layers. So these little lines, just click on them, flatten the image, and then you can do File and Save As, and you can save it how you need to save it to submit that, and then change it right here to JPEG. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and we'll try and get you some answers.